Hi, I'm Eric Tillman with the Ticats, and we're very excited today to start with our new series on the negotiation list. I think it's something that you'll enjoy getting to know about. What is the neg list? Well, it's something that's very unique to the Canadian Football League. Let's start first, though, with our roster to put it in perspective. Canadian Football League has 44 players active. Of those 44, we have 3 quarterbacks. It doesn't matter whether they're Canadian or American. And then of the remaining 41 spots, you have 21 Canadians and 20 Americans. The Canadians come into this league and, via a traditional fashion, a draft like you have in the National Hockey League, the NBA, the NFL. Where our league is unique, though, is with the American content and what we call the neg list. Each club can protect 45 players. Those can be guys that are in U.S. University. They can be guys that are active in the National Football League that we think are going to be cut. In most situations, probably the majority of the guys on the negotiation list are guys that have been in the NFL for a year, 2 or 3, but have been cut a couple of times and are out. When you put a player on your negotiation list, it's just like drafting them in the NHL. You have exclusive rights to them. It's a critical part of building your club. It's certainly something that, if you look back at our club and where we are now, guys like Terrence Tolliver, Luke Tasker, Larry Dean, those kinds of guys have come into our club via the neg list. Simone Lawrence is another one. When I was GM in Edmonton, we had him on the neg list, signed him. Kent got him via trade. But the neg list is a critical component to building a successful franchise. And as we go forward, want to give you some insight in the players that we have protected, our thought process, and let you know not only where we are now, but our plans for the future. Maybe the best way to understand the negotiation list or to fully embrace it is to look back and see the impact that it's had on our club already with certain guys. And obviously, the American players, the elite American players come to this league, household names, all of them start via the negotiation list. Luke Tasker would certainly be one of those guys. Played at Cornell for Kent. Kent held him in very high regard. After he came here, I remember talking about Luke and how savvy he was at route running, great hands, just really bright guy. Ironically, I was in San Diego for a preseason game. That August, he had signed. Luke had finished at Cornell and gone to the Chargers. And I called Kent from the press box and said, "Hey, he's pretty productive. You were more than right about this guy, and there's several scouts here. Do you want to put him on now?" And Kent said yes, in very emphatic Ken Austin fashion. So actually sent it in from the press box. And it's first come, first serve. So, if you wait until after a game and somebody else, if we had waited and someone else in the CFL had put him on, we would have lost his rights. So, we were fortunate. He's a guy that Ken had coached and developed, we felt would be a good fit. But that night in San Diego, when he was showing pretty well, we decided to put him on immediately. And certainly, I think it's a move that Kent feels very good about. Another neg list story, and there's a story behind every player, would be Terrence Tolliver. When we first came in here, and I was at that point a consultant and working with Kent, he said, "Eric, look, one of the things we want to do is get a bigger target at X," and we started talking about guys. Terrence was a guy that had been with a couple of NFL franchises. We put him on after he got cut in Chicago, and talking to Ken about him, he remembered him from LSU when Ken had been the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss. It's one of the things that's interesting and can be frustrating at times. Fans say, "Well, why can't you find a guy?" or "When are you going to get a guy?" And Terrence is certainly representative of the fact that it takes time to get the players you want. That first year, as I said, we saw Terrence in Chicago. He got cut. We put him on the negotiation list. He set out the balance of that NFL season and didn't sign for most of the next spring. I think we signed him right before training camp the subsequent year. So a lot of times these guys are going to wait and see if another NFL opportunity is there. So it's not a matter of finding them, you find them. You don't always get them immediately, but if you invest in the right kind of guys, if you invest in a Simone Lawrence, if you invest in a Terrence Tolliver, a Luke Tasker, or Brandon Banks, those kind of guys on your negotiation list, eventually it's like investing in the stock market. You'll get a good return. Sometimes in this league we have to laugh at ourselves. Whether it's in football ops or in coaching, we certainly get called at times dumb, and sometimes we're called smart. The truth is, plenty of times we're lucky, and Larry Dean is one of those guys. You know, there are plenty of guys that we found that we've scouted. Other times that it's just based on recommendation and good fortune. And again, Larry Dean is the ultimate example of that. When, you know, back a few years ago, we had the legendary Mike Singletary's son, Mike. We signed Matt. Matt came here, had a good camp for us. Didn't make the club, but you know, Mike came up, spent a couple of days, went to practice, and sitting with him in practice and talking about, he was with the Vikings then as assistant head coach, talking about several players. And I asked him about Larry Dean. Well, he brought up some linebackers. I asked him about Larry. He recommended him very highly athletically, you know, from a character standpoint. After watching his practice and seeing what our game was more about, Mike thought he would be a great fit. So based on Mike Singletary's recommendation, we put Larry on the negotiation list, and obviously he's become a quality player for us. So, hey, if you're not smart, sometimes it's good to be lucky. So I hope you've enjoyed this first segment on our Ticat negotiation list. It's something we're going to do on a regular basis, a concept from our leadership that they thought you would really enjoy. You know, not only knowing our team as it is, but getting a glimpse at what the future might be. So come back, visit the site, and hopefully we can keep you informed on future Ticats.